introduce Cindy Larson from the Muskegon Chamber of Commerce and also the DMDC. Cindy, if you could come up to the podium, introduce yourself, and each of the speakers, even the presenters, if you could give your name and residential address for the record, I would appreciate that. But Cindy, go ahead and take it away. You can introduce the rest of the principal presenters tonight as well.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm Cindy Larson, president of the Muskegon Lakeshore Chamber of Commerce. And I am here as part of a team, but actually we're going to kind of switch that just a hair because our plan was to have Steve Olson come on up because he is actually the MDC board. I am like a working staff person for the board and have been deeply involved in the project. So Steve, could you please come on up?
Thank you, Cindy. Steve Olson. I live at 820 Oakmere in North Muskegon. Also, for the record, I do have a manufacturing business in the city of Muskegon. Very happy
Thank you.
To be a part of that. As Cindy said, I'm a board member of the DMDC. I'm representing, kind of filling in for Chuck Johnson, who is our board chairman, who's out of town right now. Not sure if all the commissioners understand, and you do, and forgive me for repeating this, but the DMDC, which was started in 2002, the DMDC is made up the Paul C. Johnson Foundation, the Lakeshore Chamber of Commerce, the City of Muskegon, and the Community Foundation here in Muskegon. So that's how that DMC came together in 2002, and the function of that was to buy the mall property at that time when the mall closed in 2001. So the took over 23 acres of property in that downtown area and looked for redeveloping that property, and we think that's come a long ways. The current project that we're looking at and would like to present to the commissioners this evening is the new, or an opportunity for a new location for our farmers market in Muskegon. And of course this has been talked about over the years. Do we want to move it? Do we not want to do it? Do we want to move it? And we, as the DMDC, are looking at developing the east end of the old mall property into the farmers market, which would take about approximately 3 acres of property. And we look at this as a very strong project that would enhance economic development in our downtown area. And of course, since that mall closed in 2001 and DMDC in 2002, we've committed to quite a few projects along the downtown mall area, and we see those enhancements coming. And part of a vibrant community is having multiple different types of businesses and economic development projects. And that's why we've taken this project on and would like to present what that's going to look like, how it's going to look like, and give the commissioners an opportunity to ask questions on how you see this. And once again, the presentation we're going to make, there's about 7 different generations. Come up with a pretty good one, but still, this is only in the talking and thinking stages right now. You know, just to recap some quick development too, because I want to spend time on this, but you think about some of the projects that we've done in Muskegon. I'm going to go back to the improvements that we made in the Throne Zone, the improvements that we made in the L.C. Walker Arena, the festivals that we have downtown, which we had the summer celebration, and that's been replaced with a new festival, but also the Irish Festival, the Unity Festival, bringing people to our downtown Muskegon. Another one is residential development. With Gary Post and his projects, the reinvigoration of the Shoreline Inn, the projects that John Brooks wants to bring downtown with a High Point flat, and a 75-home housing development. All of these will help support economic development in our downtown, and we can take advantage of a very well-located farmers market for these folks. We're always trying to encourage a good walking community, and we think that this location for a farmers market will certainly enhance that. So I guess at this point in time, I would open it up up to questions. We actually have some renderings that we'd like to show the commissioners. And then you can ask questions, whether it be a parking question, a development question, a timeline question, and also funding. And on funding, I'd like to emphasize that all this is going to be privately funded, which is a big stepping stone and an obstacle that we're going to get out of the way right away. But we know that that's going to take a little time to pull this, because we're going to go to the community and ask for support from the community for individual donors. So, and we think with this project, which we're looking at about investment in downtown Muskegon, we think we have an opportunity to get those dollars. And then when this is all done, this project is done, then it's our intention to take this 3+ acres of land and turn that back over to the city of Muskegon, and it will become your farmer's market with your property and your location. So that's what the envision that we have for this project. So after that, we'll open it up for questions or show you the renderings, and we'll entertain comments from the commissioners.
I'm going to step in. I'm going to give you I know there's a lot of prep here, but I know you needed to hear some of the prep. And we have, because you have started working on this farmer's market 2 or 3 times before, there was actually quite a bit of data available to us to design the first drawing. And actually, as Steve said, it's not the first drawing, but you have well documented a lot of the needs of the farmers. You had well documented a lot of the features that you wanted in a downtown market, and you had done a lot of research, not just here in Muskegon, but you also had done a lot of research on other markets in the area. And so basically, we took all of that data that you already had, and is also talked about in your '97 master plan, as well as your update in 2008. A lot of this there's a lot of references to this new market and the location. But what we had to do in the recent months is, since the fall, is figure out where exactly could it fit to have the features that you guys were looking for. And at this point, I know there's a lot of people here, but part of this process, this is just our first step into engaging the community. So this is just a concept, so there will be plenty of time for people to have input on very specific features of the market. But just to call out a few, and we'll start looking at. It's kind of tricky when we have to show it to you, and I know these guys are dying to see it. But just to call out a few features, and then I'll have the architects come up, and Steve Novak from another Muskegon company, T4. Gordon, your last name, Gordon, remind me. Gendritz is the architect on this. We incorporated a lot of really cool features like electricity and lighting, as well as more of a walker pedestrian friendly area with green grass, and we made the stalls very easy to clean, and there's a lot of features like that, making sure that all of the things that were on the farmer's dream list of what they would want in a market were included in this. A big thing that I heard from a lot of men is you need to get better bathrooms. So we wanted to make sure that we're good, substantial bathrooms on the list. So we tried to pull in everything that we heard people talk about over the last basically 10 years and get it into this setting. Now I think what's key in this is the location. And for those people that were born and raised here, that also had been an issue in the past. The location that we are proposing is the old Sears lots, where the old Sears store was. So this is wedged in between the post office as well as that Harley dealership. This is something that was the hardest part, is trying to figure out where could we fit this and still get all the parking within the same amount of walking distance that the current market has. Now again, the parking is sometimes linear because it's on the street, but there's more than enough parking within the same walking distance of the current market. We knew that was almost like a deal breaker for a lot of people. So that's why we took a lot of time trying to figure out how to fit this market on that space, and which is why the market is the way it is. The other thing that was a biggie was just making sure those farmers were satisfied, as well as the aisle space that people walk down in the current market had that same feel, the way that people can get back and forth and still shop and still stop and talk
but not bottleneck people. And that's what I think is really magical about Muskegon's market versus the other cities, that you have the ability to walk through, shop, and talk with your visitor and not bottleneck people. I know at the busiest hour it gets a little bottlenecky, but I think I've had people say even with strollers they can work their way through during those busy times. I think I would like to have the architect and Steve come on up and say if there's any of these specific architectural features of this. Another guy that's worked with us on this that hasn't been here is Jim Schultz. He does a lot of the landscaping for the downtown area, and actually he's part of the spirit behind this. He's one of the first people we called when we needed to get some input, and I had no idea that Jim used to be a police officer who was stationed at the farmer's market. And just out of the blue I called him and said, I know you know downtown like the back of your hand. You know, we're trying to find a spot. And he goes, Cindy, I know what you're talking about. I know where it is. He goes, and I sat at that farmer's market for years. And he goes, I know all the strengths and weaknesses of the market. And he goes, I know all the strengths and weaknesses of the downtown because I worked it as a police officer as well as now I'm doing all the landscaping downtown. So it's been really fun to see how this comes together. And we are actually anxious to get out and start talking about it publicly because each time we do talk to somebody about it, we get a really neat, cool idea. And we hope that all of these great ideas can be added to the design.
I'm Gordon Gendritz. I'm with Paradigm Design in Grand Rapids. Well, we were contacted by Cindy's group. I think it was last June when we first started working on the project. And it sort of it has evolved. Initially, we there's actually 4 parcels of land that were. There's actually this yellow outline is the property that we're talking about developing. And initially, we were asked to see what we could fit on this parcel right here, and we came up with a scheme that was sort of like a U-shaped scheme, but that would only fit about 50 stalls on there. And the current market has like 125 stalls. So it became. I actually went out to the market last summer, and I talked to the market manager, and we did an audit of what was available there, and they currently have 125 stalls. There's the parking. I think that they have about 350 parking spaces that are adjacent to the site, and it was pretty obvious that this portion would not even come close to fitting those 2 major components. So we were asked to look at developing actually this whole parcel in here. And by doing that, I think just stay up here. By doing that, we were able to get approximately 70 parking spaces within the site because the adjacent parking was pretty important at the market right now. The parking's right up against the stalls. And then we have some on-street parking, and then within a 500-foot radius, there's over 500 parking spaces that are available. And so what we tried to do is we tried to maintain a market street, which was just recently, there was a lot of infrastructure put into that. So the idea was to try to keep that infrastructure in there and then develop the market around it. So that's basically how we came up with this form. There's a 2,500 square foot market office up here that would actually have a teaching kitchen incorporated in it. And then along here we have 10 all-season stalls that'll have overhead doors that in the wintertime, the market.
also, now again, we haven't had as many public meetings as we would like to, but we just want to also make sure it's incorporated, connected as pedestrian to the bus lines as well as the bus.
So that he opens to different types of venues, like auto shows, maybe, just different things, I mean, that it could be used for, outside of farmers market on Saturdays, but have festivals out there and that type of thing, so.
We've looked at, again, the uses of other markets when they're centrally located, and really the possibility for festivals and events is endless. And so it won't just be used a few days a week, it'll be used most days of the week, and over time, we'll get into some evening events and things like that. Really important for those of you on the 1 in 21 program. And then the other thing that is of interest in that community kitchen is a small business incubator. A lot of people who start food companies start in making things out of their home, they like the jams and the jellies and those kinds of things. Well, really, they need to learn how to do that in a commercial kitchen. So that's part of the concept. And again, we have to, as we get further into this, it keeps going and going. We had a great idea, and I hope I could say, from the market manager who said, well, how come you don't have solar panel roofs? And it's like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. So we're doing the research now on the solar panel roof for the market, and we're not sure, there's not too many of those out there. But anytime people start to see it, it gets really, really exciting because it's going to be more than just the farmer's market. And I think those of you, probably most of you have been to the winter market yet. Have you all been there? You can see that the winter market also reinforced the idea of having this winter market and also having it downtown is going to bring life and energy to our downtown. And again, that was the original mission for our group, is the energy and excitement. We had to get downtown re-energized. And this is a fantastic way to do it. Other communities have done it. And they're doing it from scratch. We're really ahead of the game when it comes to energizing and having this really cool market already. It's just a matter of bringing that energy into this new location.
Trying to do with the design also is, this is what I was talking about off the shoreline, to try to create a gateway basically into the city. So, this component, which is over here, is going to be a pretty prominent thing off of Lake Shore. And then the market office would be a continuation of the street on Western. So, and then we created some like a gateway in the center portion here, because that we feel would be like a real hub of activity right in this area here.
Questions? I know Steve has a couple more things to
Cindy?
say. Yes.
Some of the nuts and bolt things that people are going to be asking for is, you cited the size of the current market as far as the number of stalls. Could you tell us the number of stalls in your proposed iteration of the new market, size of stalls?
Yeah, well, I
that?
thought there was 130 in the current.
There's 125.
Okay, and this is a little bit more, and the stalls are a little larger. So we're hoping maybe the farmer that took up 5 stalls will only need 4 stalls now. So that was one of the things that was in the farmer's request, is they wanted stalls that were a little bit longer, not wider, longer, because you still need to do your business transaction.
Right.
And then this whole issue of water, easy access to the water and the electricity. This is really important for the farmers, and especially the new people that are coming that need refrigeration. The whole idea of the meats and the cheeses and the fish now. The electricity is going to be a huge enhancement for this group. I think there's this whole issue of it's going to be a new arrangement, and getting packages to and from that's been brought up. We're going to have one turnaround area where people can drive up and kind of have run and get their packages, but also we're going to promote the use of
the pull carts, this will be all brand new asphalt. It's gonna be real easy for strollers and people pulling their baskets on wheels to get in and out of here. But this is where this is where the community input's gonna come in. We have an idea where we think this will work best in terms of a turnaround, but this is where some more of the input from the people is gonna be important. This one area, they designed it, this big square here, so that it could be made into an ice rink in the winter. And so we're excited about that, so we'll try to run this as much year-round as we possibly can. I say we, the collective we, because really, once we raise the money, we're gonna kind of step back and, let it just, it's gonna be a community market. We have been asked to put together an advisory committee, which is more of a couple people from the neighborhoods, Lori from the market, a couple of city commissioners, certainly people on the city staff. Those people that will actually, in the end, have to be concerned about this day in and day out to be the official advisory committee for this, versus the DMVC is more the fundraising committee for it. We have a lot of interest from the private donors. They're really excited about downtown Muskegon, and they really want to do something to give it that oomph, that push to just really start to generate the excitement and ideally, this definitely is going to attract two things, retail people as well as residential people. There's already been demonstrated in many, many cities that people want to live near these kinds of markets, and then again, the growth from the businesses, like the cheese lady, we all use her as an example, but she started at the market, then she started a business, and when we see more of that, when we get this right down in the central area, it's like an incubator for small businesses, for small food businesses.
So the current plan has 125 stalls on it, and they are, we drew them at 12-foot wide by 23-foot deep, and the current ones are 10 by 20. Okay. And then these right in this area here, there's 10 of them that would be, there'd be an overhead door, so it'd be closed down in the winter. So 10 of them would be
Yeah, I think one of your concerns, I know we heard, is that this is gonna increase the cost of the farmers. The whole design is to not increase the cost of the farmers. And that's where the private foundation, private funds come in. Because we really need those private funds. So nothing's gonna be mortgaged on this. That's why I would love the solar roof idea, because that may pay for the electricity. You already own the water. So we're trying to make sure that this is at zero cost to the farmers in terms of what they're spending now. One way that you'll get some more revenues, though, is from more events. And even in Fremont, they're telling us that people are having weddings at their farmers market.
All right, questions, comments from the commission? Commissioner?
Regarding parking, what I'm seeing is parking alongside the stalls, which is similar to what is at the current market.
Right.
In my mind, that parking is actually for the farmers themselves, those who have trucks and what have you. So how many spaces are there allocated that are not going to be used by farmers?
We didn't really get into allocating, who would be parking where, but currently.
Well, I'll tell you that people aren't going to necessarily be parking if someone has a truck full of meat because they're a butcher. They're going to park their van behind their stall.
This is the important one. So see this lot right here? It's hard to tell these two. This is where we're going to need more meetings. These are public parking right here. See this section? You gotta see that all is public parking, even though this is street. That's all public parking. That's here. Then we've got this parking right here.
So that lot is
We
not
got
on
this lot and this lot. Not to mention this lot, this is 30. All of that, there's 30 here. There's all lots there. It really, in the end, is gonna be more parking. Now, some people are gonna be on the street, but that's the idea of it.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the amount of effort that's been put into this. I would just, because quite honestly, it's kind of upside down and giving me a headache. In the future, could you put north? Oh, I'd be diagram.
Well, it is, yeah, it's down.
Yeah, it's
so,
not.
Yep.
So to my way of looking at maps, everything's upside down, so just FYI. I have a couple of concerns with this, and these aren't a mystery to folks I've talked with about this, but, now that we're having a public meeting, I think it's time to put them out on the floor. My first concern is for the viability of the park. I'm one of the few, I think Mayor Garland was the only other one who is on this body that was here when we went through this exercise 8-9 years ago. And that taught me a lot. And part of what it taught me is that the market is the farmers. The facility is just that. It's a facility, but without the farmers, without the customers, it's just an empty lot. And in fact, there have been a number of communities that have built fancy farmers markets that sit empty most of the time or grossly underutilized because they are not attractive to the market, meaning the farmers, and their potential customers. So I think we have to put the market's needs first and foremost. And part of my concerns with this process is the view of the market as a tool for somebody else's purposes. And I fully support the redevelopment of downtown Muskegon. I have spent most of my public career toward that end. And certainly I have been open to moving the market. But I think we have to put the needs of the market first and foremost, so that it is, if it is moved, it's moved with the consensus of the market, which means the farmers and at least a significant number of their customers. Otherwise, we will have a fancy facility that sits empty. The other thing is, when we looked at this, we were looking at sites that were significantly larger because of the actual, we're not talking about the unpaved areas, we weren't even talking about the paved areas, but the physical plant of the existing market, the canopies, the spaces for the trucks and the farmers, and the support building take up approximately 9 acres. And we only found 2 locations in downtown Muskegon that fit that criteria, and both of them are no longer available because they have buildings on them. My concern is that by trying to squeeze what's currently on 9 acres onto, you said 3.5, what is essentially 2.5 city blocks, I am concerned. I can be persuaded if you show me in, better layouts than this, how that works.
There's currently, they utilize 6.3 acres on that.
Okay, well, that's
their
still
market.
twice
That
as,
includes
right.
but how much does the market proper take up?
On the new, in this
In the
proposal.
old one? The market
Well,
proper.
that's the 6.3 acres includes the flea market area for park, for
but that doesn't
overflow.
include all the overflow parking. See,
Correct.
when a lot of the community law talks about the market, they're not just talking about the canopies or the area that's paved, they're talking about, in some cases, stuff that's not even really part of the market, like people tend to overflow park at Green Acres Park or across Murphy. So that's a concern. The other thing is that when I look at this location, and I've said this to a number of people, including some of the presenters today, is that it just astonishes me that in Muskegon, somebody could stand at the intersection of Terrace and Morris, look north, seeing nothing but blue water, and what will be an uninterrupted view shed because it's a street right away, and think a low density, low rise, intermittent seasonal use is the best and highest use for that property. My concern was that at some point, hopefully when we're successfully further along with the redevelopment of downtown, that property will be too valuable for somebody and they will make an offer that can't be turned down for something that takes advantage of what in any other community would be a location where you'd want to go up and take advantage of that view shed for either residential use or a hotel or office space where people will pay a premium for what they see looking out their window. And, the market needs to have a long-term future. And my concern would be if we reach that point, and probably, hopefully, sooner rather than later, as downtown continues to grow and redevelop, we're gonna be in a pickle with how we preserve the market. Plus, this is a significant amount of investment made in something that potentially is disposable, which really troubles me, because that's a lot to ask for the community to contribute to something that may have a higher and better use within a fairly short time horizon. So, that's a concern. And then finally, and I was very pleased to hear that you say this, that getting back to this has to be about the market, that this has to be the start of a process, that there has to be flexibility, it has to be cost sustainable, whatever gets done, wherever it gets done. Clearly, in today's economic environment, for governmental units, we cannot subsidize anything. We just don't have the resources. We would not make that commitment. We have turned down gifts because we could not come up with a means of ensuring the long-term sustainability of the potential gift. And I think as a key example is the proposal to give us the 70-odd acres over there on the causeway for what was originally going to be a soccer ball complex, or soccer field complex. And when we crunched the numbers and looked at what it would cost us to keep the lights on, the toilets clean, and the grass mowed, we couldn't afford to accept the gift, even though it wasn't going to cost the city a thing to create. And so we have to make sure we avoid that kind of trap with this, because we do have to charge ourselves for water. That's state law. That's not something where we can put free water into a city facility. So if the farmers are okay with, and you're flexible enough to take into account what they say they need, and if the community says this is what we definitely have, I'm certainly not going to get in the way of what the people who vote for me say they want done. But those are my concerns. I think this proposal has a long way to go to meet those concerns. And quite honestly, I think your biggest job is going to be winning over the farmers and their customers, because they constitute the market.
Quick question. I heard you mention, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I heard you say that you spoke with the community, basically meaning the investors. And my concern is for this, the residents in that community, the taxpayers. Have you reached out and engaged them in this process as well?
Not officially, but only because, and really, I'm not putting Brian on the spot, but Brian has been through this a few times, and he said, do not bring us a proposal public yet until you do your homework. Because, and I've been through it myself, so we did, unfortunately, we had to do a lot of talking to people, but unofficially. We have only talked, we've talked to a number of people, but that we're really looking forward to a couple of neighborhood sessions, so we can get more input. You did do that before, just so you know, and it's well documented, and I was sorry to say, even in the chamber file, I had a whole file, farmer's market, it was this big. So a lot of that has been done over the years, and we used most of that information. Then recently, we pulled in, we got permission just to come in and talk to Lori. You went down and talked to Lori. I personally have talked to a couple of the farmers and 2 of the vendors. And so it's not like we're using all of the information, but it is time now to have a couple of those neighborhood sessions.
Mr. Manager?
Maybe just to add on to what Cindy said, she's right. I've had a conversation with the group, and my advice was to come to the city commission and have conversation with the city commission and make a presentation about what concept they had in mind, so they could get some feedback, some reaction, and then move on from there with what needs to be done after that. I see this as a process that begins here, and there are a number of steps that needs to occur in that process if it's something that you're interested in pursuing.
And I'm mainly talking about like neighborhood associations, and you engage those organizations and stuff as well. That's what you're saying, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And the only reason we got this far in the drawings is, again, Brian, I talked with Brian quite a bit. We needed to get a budget, and the only way you can get a budget is you gotta do some drawings. So it's kind of a catch-22. So we had to get some drawings, and then we had to talk to some of the major funders. Do you think that we could raise $3 million? Because we were not coming here unless we thought we could do it. And so that's the only reason we had to get this far, is so we could get a nice budget, make sure everything that was in there, and that we knew we could raise that amount of money before we came and got everybody excited about it. So that's why we're here now. So like I said, every time I show it to just one person, they come up with a really cool idea. So we're anxious to get out there and hear about some new ideas that haven't been thought of.
Commissioners? Mr. Mayor.
If you don't mind me saying one other thing, I think Cindy hit on an issue that is very important and one that I've raised with whoever wanted to talk about relocation of the farmers market over the last many years, and that is cost. There's huge interest in this issue, as evidenced by the number of people that have come out tonight. And what I've always said to anybody that wanted to talk about the relocation of the farmers market is that we really needed a sense of what the cost was to do so, and a real sense that that money could be raised, and that the city doesn't have that money. And I think that's where this group really started, and I commend them for doing that, and they have a good sense that that money can be raised, and that's why they're coming before you now.
Anything else, Commissioners?
Before you answer the questions, I just want to echo the fact that I realize you're beginning in your process here of making this as a final proposal, but I do want to ensure that we are taking the community into account, because while I personally travel and go to farmers markets when I travel, I don't typically buy a bushel full of vegetables when I'm on vacation. So that's really what our source product is in this market, is things that people use in their homes, and we really have to make sure that we are playing to the people that live here. And while there's going to be some benefit, regardless of what the market is, to those that come in from the outside, that is really the purpose of this market. We have to make sure that that is who we're playing to.
And I totally agree. As a person who tries to recruit people to live here, that is really important. We have been doing a pretty darn good job at job creation the last year or so, creating a lot of jobs, but it doesn't do us any good if they don't move here. And many of you know, we have a huge campaign about live where you work. And we are creating jobs in the city of Muskegon. Now we need people to come in and live here as well. And living here, I can do a whole another presentation on how it's important that we all live in the community we work in.
Vice Mayor?
Just one more caveat on this particular location, and it took a while for it to sink in. But if the intention is for the Baker lot to be used as parking for the market, I do think, okay or not, one hopes they didn't buy a whole square city block for the long-term use of a surface parking lot. And, to think that that might be parking available indefinitely, I would hope at least that would not be the case. And so we have to not necessarily assume that that block would be available more than in the short term for parking. And it's currently not a public parking lot, and so you would have to make sure that the owners of that property were amenable for that short-term use. When you're coming up with parking calculations, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that part of it.
Just have one other thing.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to say that I do like the design, great job, and I want to see downtown develop as much as everyone else. My main concern also is, like Vice Mayor Spataro mentioned, pretty much the lifespan. Is this going to be something that 10 years down the line just ends up where you just got a farmer's market and there's no attraction, and again you have investors coming in wanting to purchase property, and no one one really, wants to purchase it because of you have a lot down there with a farmer's market that is not producing or, attracting people. Definitely, if this is something the community wanted, I would be in favor of it, but, I was put here by, the community, and I feel that there needs to be some engagement with the taxpayers and residents to see how they feel about this as well,
all the way down the line. Holland's got a big new one, Grand Rapids is working on two. Eastern Market in Detroit, they've infused a bunch of money into that. And ours, as you can see, it needs to be infused. Even if you kept it there, you're gonna have to infuse some serious capital in it to keep it going. So yes, it's proven as an economic development tool to bring community people together. And a lot of people are starting from scratch. We're not starting from scratch. We're just kind of relocating it. It is about the third move for the market in the history of the market. And some of the farmers do remember when it was in other locations. So really, this is just, we're really repeating history. We're identifying a new spot. But yeah, and as a matter of fact, there's a couple more we'd like to drive to, and we'd like other people to drive to before we sign off on any plans, or you should. I know I'm going to go to a couple of them before. I've been to them, but I wasn't going there with this hat on. So we all need to do that. So when you're in different towns, go to their markets, take your camera, take pictures, bring it back.
Commissioner Hood?
Yeah, something that she said that really rung a bell and sounded out. Regardless if we move it or not, I feel there needs to be some repairs, need to be some updating to the farmer's market where it is. And I know there is a lot of concern in the community that I serve of the farmer's market thing. So even if we leave it, I still think that it needs some improvement.
Not necessarily a suggestion, but just whether you've considered, of the farmers markets that I've gone to while traveling, for instance, I'm from Metro Detroit, so Royal Oak has quite a prolific farmers market, and it's more of a state fair style. It's in a permanent building, and they can use it for a variety of uses. Same thing with the majority of Eastern Market. So has that type of long-term planning gone into this project, where in the event that it's successful, it's something that you could make a more permanent structure and therefore possibly eliminate some of the concerns about it being easy to tear down and therefore replace?
Well, I think that's what the idea of the all-season, this structure here would be, it would be an enclosed building that would have like heat in it. I mean, the idea would be is if this was successful in the winter time or whatever, that this could be expanded. But that's, I mean, that's just the layout of we tried to maximize, the site, and so this is sort of the configuration that came out, but this could be expanded,
The longevity of the structure that you put in place, so something that you could actually convert to more long-term use if necessary, so I should consider that.
Right.
I remember a lot of what we're seeing here is, an extension of prior investigations and studies in the past 8 years. This is actually probably the third iteration. The first one was when we were considering moving the market and placing it on area where currently the central fire station and Hot Rod Harley are now. The big bugaboo was money. Second iteration was the potential of moving it down across from the old Shaw Walker complex on the Hartshorn parking lots where private monies would have been used, and it was a nice design. But then I think the waterways got in the way with that one due to the fact that The parking lots are part of Harpshorn Marina, which had been approved by federal, state funds, et cetera, so that can get up there. And once again, potential move.
Size was an issue there as well.
In size. 3 acres. But much of what I see here and in my discussions, you know, has directly addressed a lot of prior concerns that have come up over almost a decade as far as design needs, the different accommodations such as the electrical, water hookup, office space, and some of these other amenities have gone, you know, beyond the studies of the past years. I have to give credit to the members of the DMDC that have been working on this, because I believe when they were first conceptualizing this, I don't think there was an awareness of how extensive this was really going to get. But city staff and market master and others who are familiar with the process, I think were able to present the history, and that history was well embraced, and the realities of it were well embraced. And there are some very generous individuals in the community that are willing to, you know, step forward and I believe take their place as that new era of philanthropists that for decades we've been bemoaning and saying, you know, died out with, you know, the lumber barons or the early industrialists. And I think we have a potential opportunity right now to see the community benefit from a great amount of generosity and commitment to Muskegon. But we'll see as we progress through this journey together. I, for one, continue to be open and supportive of looking at the potential for providing the citizens of the city of Muskegon a new farmer's market. And one, I don't think that we'd be so apt to give up once we, you know, embraced it. It'll be ours. So, you know, if anybody was going to be turning it over, we couldn't turn it over or sell it without the say-so of, you know, the citizenry. But I think there may be much benefit here, but it is now time to go out and speak to the people and get their input. And lastly, but most importantly, having the customers, which I am one, and our cherished farmers to see that this can be a benefit to us all in the long term. I do get a bit excited about it. I do get a bit excited thinking that there are other uses like winter festivals and kinder markets at Christmas time. All kinds of neat things. I like how the quaint curved street runs through it, like in some of the larger cities I've been through, in their markets. So I think there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of questions, but it's up to the proponents then to answer those questions, and I think it's up to all of us to look at it with an open mind. It's not like we haven't been here before. But now, I think in the last exercises, the big thing that always left us hanging was, well, the heck we're going to pay. The city may be a beneficiary as well of a new market, because in many ways this may lessen our operation costs just due to the fact of the materials, the newness, and not having to be concerned with the deterioration of a much older infrastructure and facility as we now have it. And from what had been described to me as far as the material use in here, a lot of it is, there's no such thing as no maintenance, but it certainly is low maintenance. So the potential for operations maintenance costs could be, you know, lesser or at least highly manageable. But I'm just letting things flow out my ears and my mouth at this point. Commissioner?
I know we're trying to make sure that we get to hear everybody who has something to say, but before people have an opportunity to let us know what they think, my question to them essentially is going to be similar to something that Larry mentioned, which is what could other people see in this space? You know, he imagines that developers might see a better use for this space in the future, or that we as a city at some point might say, well, you know, we have this block of land. Did we want to use it for a farmer's market? Would we have rather had a high-rise? And I think that we've been talking a lot about our vision for Muskegon lately, and we're hoping to get some input on that. So if you have comments or thoughts or suggestions, please let us know what you envision our downtown to look like. If you imagine the farmer's market to be there, tell us what that looks like. If you don't, what do you imagine in its place? Because right now we have nothing there, and we're looking to see, you know, what our citizens want our downtown to be. So please share that with us.
And I can appreciate that point and the point of the vice mayor, but I also appreciate the point that I've always thought that, and I can understand where the vice mayor comes from. You know, it could be a very desirable lot, but I also appreciate the fact of how huge the downtown, you know, area actually is and its historic, you know, boundaries. There's a lot of available land with a lot of beautiful sight lines. So if we do decide to go with farmer market there, heck, it's a farmer's market with one hell of a view. But as far as public comment, morning. Please come forward. I need to have you at the podium, and right.
Turn those so people can see them.
And I need your name and your address, madam.
Do I have to give my address or Morning Mayor, 529 Houston, Muskegon, Michigan. My question is to Cindy
Hang on a
Larson.
second, please. Let
Maureen,
them-
hold on a second.
Yes.
We're gonna turn that.
We need that so it's not blocking you, so we can see.
Oh,
Thank you.
And now we can
You
see your
meant
visit.
turn.
Go ahead.
my question is, you made a comment that really bothered me, and that's the fact that you said that you want people to live close to the market. People live close to the market now. And then you said you want people, you always get people to move downtown, but how many of you live downtown? So you're taking a market away from a living community, but yet you're saying to create a living community. And that's where the division between downtown and the living community exists. And I don't understand. Do you not get it?
Should I respond?
Yes.
You know, you don't, what I would suggest tonight is you take the comments,
Okay.
write them down, chew on them. We won't forget because
Okay.
these are things that are going to be.
Okay. It's confusing to me. I
Sure.
mean, we have people living by the market now, and you act as if it doesn't exist. Another thing, on Saturday, I was downtown at the indoor farmers market. I talked to the lone farmer who said his sales are so bad he might not make it 2 more weeks. So when they spin this story, go talk to the farmers. They're not selling, they're not making the money. The people in the indoor market are barely making their gas money to be. So don't listen to the good spin. It's not the truth. That's all I got to say.
Pete?
Good evening. Pete Johnson. Clarification, I am part of the DMDC. First of all, this is a really exciting project for downtown Muskegon. And 468 East Circle. A couple things that I don't think was clarified earlier is that the DMDC has spent a considerable amount of time working with the farmers. And that's why you might see on the prints, large farmers for them. One of their biggest wants was electricity, which are in the plans. Another one is water. They want to be able to quickly hose down their facilities, clean them up, prep them for the next day. All of that takes time and effort, which they don't have right now. And so I just wanted to let that be known. And there's been, we've worked with the manager quite a bit. She's worked with all the farmers. The farmers have had a great amount of time to work through their manager and then communicate their needs and wants with us. We certainly would like to hear from them more. but I do think that we have gone to great lengths to include any input or concerns that they have, including parking, which currently exceeds, not including anything to do with the college. Those aren't in any of our parking specs. We have more parking in this design than we do currently. One last point, if I may, is that this project is not about one part of our community succeeding over another. Okay? This is about bringing our synergies, our strengths together. If you look at our museum, if you look at our Hackley Park, if you look at Baker College, if you look at the Frohenthal, I could keep going. But the reason why our downtown is doing as well as it is because we have been able to bring those synergies together and bring this part of our downtown to life. This is an important part of that. And keeping it where it's at is not going to help this downtown grow. You have a large investment to make if you leave it where it is. Are you going to be able to even get the funds for that type of an investment? Right now, you have people willing to commit to a project that is millions of dollars in the making. And I think is an exciting project. I'm extremely committed to the downtown development. And I look forward to raising a glass high the day that this is built and we can all celebrate with successful farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Kathleen?
Kathleen Rigler, 808 Terrace. I do live downtown. I've been down at the farmer's market for almost 10 years. I've watched a lot of things change in the last 10 years. And I've watched things get better, I've watched things get worse, I've watched farmers leaving because they can't afford to live. There's a lot, but that's a universal problem. That's not the problem of the market itself. I mean, that's just what's going on. We need people downtown. We need bodies downtown. In order for other things to happen, we need bodies downtown. I see the farmer's market as being the so-called grocery store that everybody thinks we need. Because there's never going to be a grocery store downtown. And we need the neighborhood to be able to have a place where we can go and buy things. And I think that if that was incorporated perhaps into the downtown market, so that there was a market that people felt safe going to and felt comfortable with, and that they could get fresh vegetables, that you would see a lot more happening. And this is a neighborhood in itself. And there's nothing wrong with the Jackson Hill neighborhood having a market. That's not a problem. But there's neighborhood all the way around here too. I also think that if we don't involve the neighborhoods with our downtown, that we will have involvement with our downtown that we don't want. That we need to have people coming downtown for classes, coming downtown and being vested into the downtown. This is not just a little pocket I live in. I live downtown by myself, basically. I mean, there's nobody down here. And I just want to see people coming down, being there, living there, walking their dogs, and they say a sign of a good city is walking the dogs.
As long as they picked it up.
As long as they're picking up after themselves. But I mean, we need the bodies. We need bodies downtown. As soon as something like the market goes through, I think that you're going to have investors that are going to look around and go, look at the people that this draws. And look what we can do in this downtown area. And I think that it's just going to be one of those incredible things that causes everything else to tip. We've been waiting for that tipping point. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Hi, my name's Kimberly Johnson. I'm a vendor at the Muskegon Farmers Market.
And we need your address, Kimberly.
2344 Vincent Drive. The thing that I really want to impress on everyone is that it has to be a cooperative effort. You can't talk to two vendors and tell me that you've sampled their needs. The one thing the current market has that I do not see in this rendering is crosswalks. Many of our vendors display their wares not just on that display table up front. We use that corner. I need that corner. If there aren't enough corners, then you're going to lose vendors. And the one thing that hasn't been said, and I guess maybe it's my job to say it, is there's more than just food at the Muskegon Farmers Market. And there has been for several years, and that is the several years that we have seen market attendance rise. Thank you. I'm excited about working with this organization. But really, guys, you gotta come ask us what we want. Because those stubborn farmers, you can't just tell them, here's your space.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Joshua Croft. I live at 2135 Latart, and I'm just representing myself as a resident this evening. I definitely would like to say that I do echo a few of the concerns of the community. However, I think a lot of my questions have been somewhat answered tonight, which was good, so I'm glad that we had this opportunity to receive this information. You know, one thing that I haven't heard brought up as we talk about access to fresh foods, and which was just brought up to other wares and items in our downtown, is that I believe that this could provide us with an opportunity to provide a lot more access to other people in our community, given its close proximity to our transit system, which I haven't really heard brought up as maybe a positive attribute of relocating this farmer's market. And also, I believe that, as some said, that this could also be a catalyst for future development, as well as supporting a lot of the developments that have already been proposed in the downtown, such as a few of the residential developments and those sorts of things. So I am pleased to hear that there will be more discussion, encouraged to hear that we will be engaging people who actually use the market, who sell at the farmers market, and who may be future patrons at the market. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian Quincy. I live at 338 Yuba Street, and that's in Muskegon, Michigan. And I work with the farmers market on a lot of times, especially since it's right down the street from my house. And I understand what the draw to downtown is, but I like to say I live downtown because I live on Jackson Hill. And I just feel like last year, it was a lady from Bayview Towers that rode her walker down there, and she was able to get the fresh fruits and everything, and she might have had a hard time getting them up, but a good citizen helped her get them up there. I just feel like this move is a pillage move. It would move something that's thriving and working, and as a person who helped put EBT down there, I thought that this would be a more joining of a community thing, but like it feels like they're taking from something that I helped to try to enhance my neighborhood with. And even though Jackson Hill extends to downtown, as well as Nelson neighborhood extends to downtown, it feels like we're not a part of this movement. And I feel like that the drawings look really pretty, but the people that live there and that would have to look at that void once it was gone. Once you move something, and it's not the fact that we just put $20,000 into the bathrooms down there, but once you move something and not think about what you left, that leaves a big void, not only with me, but with a lot of other people that live down there. And I just want you to think about, if you do move the market, if we do build synergy, you can't build synergy and take from someone else. That's all.
Thank you.
Neighborhood. And looking at the plans, I see a really nice design for a really nice market that I like. But I stress A Because what I see is that we might be better served by looking at having a handful of regional markets. And I know this because most of the city of Muskegon is a food desert. A lot of our neighbors have no transportation, have unreliable transportation, have limited transportation. And right now, we're looking at a potential for a lot of good sites, as there's the possibility of the school district demolishing a number of the vacant buildings, so there's a lot of potential there. And in that type of context, this would be an excellent market. It's an excellent what I'm hearing discussed is the market. And in the context of the market, if our goal is to keep a single citywide market, then I would second some of what's been said. I've been here this summer. It's cold. And that's not, overflow space is used. So we're looking at moving to a site that's smaller without the overflow as we talk about wanting the city to grow, as we talk about wanting further development. If we are looking to keep one single market, move it into a space that has less expansion room, less development room. If we're looking at it as part of an overall system, because yes, the downtown neighborhood needs fresh fruits and vegetables, every neighborhood needs fresh fruits and vegetables, and right now most of our neighborhoods aren't getting them. But if this is going to be the market, size is a big concern. And one more concern, what was mentioned was that there are 300 some parking spaces on the current site. It was acknowledged that those are needed, and then stated that there would be about 50 on this site. If I wanted to go start a business downtown right now,
yes, can that property be sold for better uses as hotels or office buildings? Can't agree with you more. That could happen. But at the end of the day, again, this has become a catalyst. This is something that pulls people to the downtown area, next to a transit authority, that also gets people from the other areas that can't get there now. And what I'm trying to say is, we looked at lots of pieces of this, or at least to some extent, now, we need to say, Vice Mayor. Concern is to have this handed to the city of Muskegon with a cost factor, and where the city would have to support that to some degree. We've looked at that very, very close and how we came up with the design and so forth, so that those, first of all, the fees stay level. The farmers are not gonna wanna come in here and pay higher fees. The second thing is, can it be cleaned and maintained easily? In other words, stay within the parameters of the revenues you're already raising now, and look at, okay, there's some other profit centers in there that can take place. The other thing is, I can't agree with you more that, you talked about down at the other indoor, vending area, that the farmers are having a tough time. They're not making ends meet. We understand that. I mean, I've seen that happen already in Chicago. Part of the problem in Chicago, why that wasn't making it, is because those products were coming from Guatemala and Honduras. People could buy that same stuff at Meijer, or at Plum's, or anywhere else. They don't have to go to the farmer's market. People go to the farmer's market to buy fresh baked bread, fresh baked or grown vegetables, fruits, whatever in the area. So our concept here was to, first of all, create something of beauty, something that functions to where all the display areas are all composite materials that don't warp or crack or split or need to be painted or anything like that. To provide Cat 5 systems in all the stations so they can swipe cards and EBT cards and whatever we have. It's all, and of course the water and the electricity and so on and so forth. So again, what I'm trying to say is, I spent a lot of time on this, back and forth with Paradigm Design and with the committee, and there's gonna be more time put into this to answer and meet all the needs, to make sure that everybody has their say, and try to get a piece into this, what they feel is necessary to make it important to them. And that's our job. Our job is to we're not trying to sell it to you, we're trying to arrive at consensus, what works for everybody. And I believe that if this goes into downtown Muskegon, that it'll be one of the greatest moves this town could ever make for bringing masses of people in. Because the statistics and data that we have show that on an average, 7,200 people on a Saturday go to that farmer's market. Right. And of that 7,200 people, the amount of money that they're spending, they go in there, averages $20. So when you think about that, you put it in dollars and cents, that's $144,000 worth of revenue that's flowing through basically a covered pole barn. And that's pretty impressive when you really look at it. And it doesn't count Tuesdays and Thursdays. So keep in mind that that is a huge revenue for farmers and for other vendors that are marketing, such as the Cheese Lady. And I mean, my wife and I go there every Saturday morning. It's a date. It's a coffee. We go down, we buy our vegetables and fruits. We meet a lot of people we know. And I personally think that if we arrive at consensus with the community as a whole, that this would come to fruition. And I really believe that. And we may have to put 7 more drawings out here. And we'll try to make sure we incorporate everything. But I thought one of the biggest things that we did was to incorporate that bike path to get that up through what we call a walking community. And having this tied to Hallmet, to the water park and so forth, is taking it's an inside corner is what we're using. The property that really had the value, and I think you would have to agree with this, Vice Mayor, is that piece that runs kind of on Western. Because that's kind of the retail section, and it's facing a parking lot. However, the piece facing towards the lake is just an absolutely beautiful entrance into this. And I think it ends up being a gateway. And beyond just some of the other retail we already have down there. So, that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
Sam?
Hi, my name is Wendy Sampson. I live at 1527 6th Street. I guess my biggest concern is the referencing of new people coming in that we're building a farmer's market to cater to. I think the farmer's market is wonderful. I go there a lot. I think it really serves the downtown community well. It's right below Baby Towers. It's very close to Hartford Terrace. And the concept of moving the farmer's market to an area that has a very low density of residents at this time. It just seems kind of reckless to cater to a population that is not there and that we're hoping would come because of the farmer's market instead of working with the residents that are already in Muskegon. So I'd hope that people would really value the residents who already are here and not want to favor people who are not living here that we might get to come here or something like that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Kimi Zimmerman. I just moved down to 234 Houston. But I've always been in the Muskegon area, and I have 2 small children. And so for me, growing up in Muskegon and thinking about what Muskegon used to be and what it is now, and what we're looking at becoming again, this is progress. It's beautiful progress we're talking about. To me, it's exciting that we're even having this conversation of this kind of change in downtown Muskegon. And as a mom, we already do a lot of walking, which is exciting for us. We walk to the library, we walk downtown, and we go to the new market. So to raise my children in the downtown area, in community, is a really exciting thing. When I think about and I hear about all the proposed ideas and businesses, investments that people are willing to make in downtown, I don't think that this is a horrible thing. Change is hard, but at the same time, it's extremely exciting. And when we talk about, removing it from one community and putting it to another community, and then what about the community that it already exists in? What we don't realize, or we're failing to look at is, this isn't about just one thing that's going to change. Many things will change. We'll move this market, and as a result, we'll see a need for transportation and other things. And there's more potential for growth and more change. These are really positive, exciting things. I, for one, love Muskegon. I don't want to live anywhere else. And when we sit around the table and we talk about this with opposition and favor and all those things, my goodness, what an exciting time to be a citizen of Muskegon, don't you think? So I, for one, whatever the outcome is, and I also appreciate the fact that there's conversation of inviting community into all of this, and that you've said that this is not the final decision. This is a proposal to put together some numbers, which we appreciate that you did, that we can come to this room right now having this work done so that we have a visual that we can look at, that we can critique, that we can talk about, but more importantly, that as citizens who care, we can have input and share our feelings, our thoughts, because we're the ones that are going to use this market. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the hard work you've done. And boy, I tell you what, again, what an exciting time to be a part of Muskegon.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Karen. Good to see you. Okay, one more comment. And we got to balance the budget.
Marcia Irwin, 2512 Pine Grove. I have been a market person, and my Nana was a market person. I have a problem with transportation and parking. When you go to the market in the fall and you want a bushel of apples, and you're not a car driver, how are you going to get the bushel of apples home? It's fall. It's Halloween. I want corn stalks on my front yard. I want a big pumpkin. How am I going to get them home? I have a car. Maybe someone down the street doesn't have, but he wants the same things I want. How is he going to get his produce? Corn stalks, bushel of apples, pumpkin. I'm concerned about the transportation and the parking. Give us our parking places so we can get our pumpkin to the car and our corn stalks to the car. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more.
I'll try to make it quick.
That's fine.
Hi, my name is Faith Grisbeck. I live at 816 Washington Avenue in Muskegon. And when I hear this discussion, I have this memory that kind of haunts me to this day. It was when I first moved back to Muskegon after living away for many years, and I came back and I was trying to learn about local politics. So I went to a candidate forum at MCC, and I listened to our former mayor, Warmington, speak. And when he was asked about the future of the city, he said to everybody there, the future of the city belongs to the developers. And I can't forget that, because when I'm sitting here and I'm hearing about, you know, things that were discussed behind closed doors quietly and then brought for community input, I'm thinking, that's too late. The future of the city belongs to the residents of the city, their children and grandchildren. It does not belong to the developers. So waiting until after plans are made and drawings are made to ask people their opinions is not appropriate. And another thing I'd like to say is, years ago, after I moved back, I went to the farmers market and there was a petition going around from farmers, and the farmers had started this petition and it was against moving the farmers market. And I remember at that time thinking, well, if the vendors and the farmers don't want it, and so why is all of this being ignored when the discussion is brought forward? If we have a history of people not wanting to move the market, and that's been why do we keep bringing
our first exercise, the petition, yes, did go through, but because the farmers were brought in on the discussions, by the end, a plurality did agree, and probably a better number of the farmers were in agreement that if at the time we could have moved it up the hill where the first iteration would have been, they were on board. Nobody is ever going to be left out. The behind closed door stuff wasn't to keep anybody out, but was to really figure out the doability of it, to at least say, hey, we can do this, so we're not leaving people dangling with a false hope or a false promise. Everything from the financing and everything else. You may or may not buy that, but okay. But I can tell you sincerely, because I've been in some of those meetings where I was at least giving some initial input, that this had to be a quality project for the people of the city of Muskegon, for the farmers, and during that exploratory stage. You don't want to come out and start throwing things about if there's no way to do it, because, I mean, that's not fair to anybody. But whether you can believe my sincerity or not, you know, that's up to you. But all I can tell you is, sitting here as a citizen of Muskegon, there was nothing to be hidden. There was only a desire to present an initial step to provide something good for the people of Muskegon. And I'm committed to this city, I hope as much as my fellows here, as much as my family has been for going on 140 years. And I wouldn't do anything to hurt this town, because I hope my family will be here for another 140. Thank you. That will, Steve, you want to make one more comment for closing? Then we're closing comments on the farmers market issue for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. You know, on behalf of the DMDC, we want to thank you for listening to our proposal, listening to public comment, and it's very important too that the public know that this is the first presentation that we've made on this project, and we felt it was extremely important that we do not present this to the community, the renderings, until we allow our commissioners to have a look at that. So, secondly, DMDC, and I'll be real quick. You know, our goal is primarily to put ourselves out of business, and once again we have all this land, and our goal is to sell this land. And we feel that this farmers market, which the location that we're proposing, is very centrally located and still stays within the city of Muskegon. We like this to be in the city of Muskegon. And being on that east end, it will allow the DMDC to take advantage of the economic development that will take place due to this marketplace. and the opportunity to sell the remaining lots that we have along Western Avenue and other side streets, which in turn will increase the tax value and the property taxes that the city of Muskegon will recognize over time. So we're excited about this, and I want to emphasize too, for this project to go forward, it's extremely important that we get a good, solid, strong endorsement of the city commissioners. I can't overemphasize that. Our stakeholders, or financial supporters, or contributors want to see that the city is on board with this project for us to take it to the next level. Certainly taking into advice what's been said here today and looking at adjusting this rendering, making some changes, so majority of the parties that have their concerns, that we can address those and make it work for everybody. So once again, on behalf of the DMDC, thank you for allowing us this time.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. Remember, when the listening continues, make yourselves available, okay? All right, thank you. Now, but where's everybody going? We're discussing the budget. Come on. We'll take a 7-minute break for everybody to freshen your makeup.